Picture this moment with me. You've just settled into your evening sanctuary. The day's armor has been carefully removed, the professional mask, the social smile, the constant vigilance of public spaces. Your shoulders have finally dropped. Your breath has found its natural rhythm. The quiet hum of your authentic self begins to emerge from beneath layers of daily performance. Then it happens. The doorbell cuts through your peace like a sudden spotlight on a private moment. Your body responds before your mind can intervene, stomach dropping, muscles tensing, a wave of something between dread and irritation washing over you. Before you even know who stands behind that door, you're already mourning the loss of this precious quiet space. Most people would dismiss this reaction as antisocial behavior, perhaps even rudeness. Friends might joke about your hermit tendencies. Family members might express concern about your social life. But what if I told you this response runs far deeper than personality quirks or social conditioning? What if that jolt of resistance is actually your psyche's sophisticated defense system protecting something sacred? Tonight, we're embarking on a journey into the hidden psychology of solitude, exploring why some souls require protected space to truly flourish, and how understanding this fundamental aspect of human nature can transform not just how you see yourself, but how you navigate a world that seems fundamentally allergic to quiet contemplation. This isn't about becoming a social hermit or rejecting human connection entirely. This is about understanding the profound difference between chosen engagement and forced performance, between meaningful interaction and energy-draining obligation. It's about recognizing that your need for solitude isn't a character flaw to overcome, but a fundamental feature of your psychological architecture to honor and protect. The great Swiss psychologist Carl Jung spent decades studying these patterns of human consciousness, and his insights reveal something remarkable. Your resistance to unexpected visitors isn't a personal failing. It's a sophisticated psychological response that deserves respect, not judgment. Your need for protected solitude isn't selfishness, it's self-preservation at the deepest level of your being. Before we dive deeper into these profound insights, if you're someone who's ever felt guilty for craving alone time, who's questioned whether your need for solitude makes you somehow defective, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. It tells me you're ready to explore these deeper truths about human psychology, and it helps ensure this content reaches others who need to hear these ideas. And if you want more insights into the hidden workings of the mind and soul, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss these explorations into what makes us human. Now let's begin by understanding what's really happening in those moments when the outside world intrudes upon your inner sanctuary. To understand your reaction to unexpected visitors, we must first explore something Jung recognized as fundamental to human psychology: the concept of psychological space. Your living environment isn't just walls, furniture, and personal belongings. It's a physical manifestation of your inner world, a carefully constructed extension of your psyche itself. Think of your home as more than mere shelter. In Jung's understanding, each space you inhabit becomes a reflection of different aspects of your consciousness. Your bedroom represents the most intimate chambers of your psyche, the space where dreams arise, where vulnerability feels safe, where the deepest processing of emotions and experiences occurs. Your living room embodies your social self, the aspect of your personality that interfaces with others while still maintaining some degree of control over the environment and interaction. The kitchen might represent creativity and nourishment, both physical and psychological. The study or workspace reflects your intellectual pursuits and productive energy. Even the bathroom serves as a space of cleansing and renewal, both literal and metaphorical. And perhaps most importantly, your front door represents the threshold between your inner world and the demands of external reality, the boundary that separates your authentic, unguarded self from the performance required in public spaces. When someone crosses that threshold uninvited, they're not simply entering your physical space. They're disrupting the carefully calibrated ecosystem of your psychological sanctuary. The energy they carry, their emotional state, their expectations, their very presence creates ripples throughout your entire inner landscape, forcing rapid adjustments to accommodate their psychological frequency. Jung identified two fundamental orientations of psychological energy that help explain why this intrusion feels so jarring for some people, while others welcome unexpected company. These orientations, introversion and extroversion, are often misunderstood as simple social preferences, but they represent something far more profound, fundamentally different ways that human consciousness organizes and regenerates itself. Extroverted individuals gain energy through interaction with the external world. They charge their psychological batteries by engaging with others, feeding off the dynamic exchange of ideas, emotions, and experiences. Their consciousness naturally flows outward, seeking stimulation and connection in the environment around them. For these individuals, unexpected visitors often bring a welcome surge of energy and possibility. But introverted consciousness operates on an entirely different principle. These individuals generate their psychological vitality from within, requiring regular periods of quiet reflection to process experiences, integrate new understanding, and maintain psychological equilibrium. Their consciousness naturally flows inward, seeking depth over breadth, contemplation over stimulation, quality over quantity in their engagement with the world. For the introverted psyche, an unexpected visitor doesn't just interrupt the evening's plans, it forces a rapid and often jarring shift from their natural state of inner-directed consciousness to an outward-focused performance mode. This transition requires what Jung called the persona, the mask we wear in social situations to meet others' expectations and navigate social complexity. The persona is one of Jung's most crucial insights into human psychology, yet it's often misunderstood. The persona isn't false or deceptive. It's a necessary psychological tool that allows us to function in social environments. Think of it as a sophisticated translation system that takes your authentic inner experience and renders it socially acceptable and comprehensible to others. When you interact with a colleague, you activate your professional persona. When you engage with family members, you might access your familial persona. With friends, you might employ a more casual, relaxed version of yourself. None of these personas are lies, but neither are they the complete truth of who you are. They're carefully curated aspects of your full self, edited and modulated for specific social contexts. The challenge arises when unexpected visitors force you to rapidly access and maintain a persona, when your psychological system wasn't prepared for that level of performance. Imagine being deeply absorbed in reading a complex philosophical text, your mind engaged in abstract contemplation, when suddenly you must shift to making small talk about the weather or local events. The mental gear changing required is enormous and often exhausting. This exhaustion isn't weakness or antisocial behavior. It's the natural result of psychological energy expenditure. Maintaining a persona requires constant micro-decisions. How should I respond to this comment? What facial expression is appropriate here? Should I share this thought or keep it private? How much enthusiasm should I display about this topic that doesn't particularly interest me? Am I giving the right impression? Are they enjoying this interaction? These calculations happen largely below the threshold of consciousness, but they consume significant psychological resources. It's similar to speaking a foreign language. Even if you're fluent, maintaining conversation in your non-native tongue for extended periods becomes mentally taxing in ways that speaking your mother tongue never does. For highly sensitive individuals or those with rich inner lives, this persona maintenance can be particularly draining. Their authentic selves operate on frequencies that don't always translate easily into conventional social interaction. They might be natural philosophers forced to discuss surface-level topics, or creative visionaries asked to engage in purely practical conversations. The translation process becomes increasingly complex and energy-intensive. Moreover, there's often a moral dimension to this exhaustion. Many deep-thinking individuals feel internal conflict when forced to engage in conversations that feel meaningless or superficial, while their minds crave substantial dialogue. They might smile and nod while discussing trivial matters, but internally they're longing for conversations about consciousness, creativity, meaning, or the deeper currents of human experience. This isn't intellectual snobbery. It's a fundamental mismatch between their natural psychological frequency and the frequency demanded by conventional social interaction. Just as some people are naturally drawn to physical activity, while others prefer mental pursuits, Some individuals are naturally oriented toward depth, while others thrive on breadth of social connection. The guilt many introverted individuals feel about their resistance to unexpected social demands often stems from misunderstanding this fundamental difference in psychological orientation. They judge themselves by extroverted standards, assuming their need for protected solitude indicates social inadequacy, rather than recognizing it as a different but equally valid approach to human experience. Perhaps Jung's most profound contribution to understanding solitude lies in his concept of the shadow, those aspects of our personality that we've relegated to the unconscious mind, either because society deemed them unacceptable or because we never learned to integrate them into our conscious awareness. The shadow isn't inherently negative or dark, despite its ominous name. It often contains our unrealized potential, our authentic emotional responses, our creative impulses, our spiritual yearnings, and yes, sometimes our less socially polished reactions and desires. The shadow represents wholeness beyond social acceptability. It's the repository of everything we are, beyond what we've learned we're supposed to be. In solitude, we create space for the shadow to emerge safely. Without the pressure of managing others' impressions or conforming to social expectations, aspects of ourselves that normally remain hidden can surface for examination. This might manifest as unexpected emotions arising during quiet moments, creative ideas that feel too strange to share, spiritual experiences that don't fit conventional religious frameworks, or simply thoughts and feelings that don't align with our public persona. This shadow emergence is crucial for psychological health and authentic self-development. Jung called the process of integrating shadow material individuation, becoming who you truly are rather than who others expect you to be. But this delicate process requires protected space and uninterrupted time. When unexpected visitors arrive, we must rapidly suppress any shadow material that's begun to surface and reinstate our socially appropriate persona. This suppression isn't just disappointing, it can be psychologically jarring. Imagine being in deep conversation with an aspect of yourself you rarely encounter, only to have that dialogue abruptly terminated by the demands of social performance. The shadow doesn't disappear when visitors arrive, it simply gets compressed back into unconsciousness, sometimes creating internal tension, restlessness, or that vague sense of unease that often accompanies unwanted social interruptions. Many individuals who strongly protect their solitude are unconsciously safeguarding this shadow work. They may not conceptualize it in Jungian terms, but they intuitively recognize that some of their most important psychological development happens in private moments when they're not performing for anyone. Consider the thoughts that arise when you're alone in nature, or the insights that emerge during long walks without destinations, or the creative impulses that surface during quiet evenings. These experiences often carry a quality of authenticity that's difficult to access when we're managing social interactions. They represent communications from parts of ourselves that only feel safe emerging in protected solitude. This is why many artists, writers, philosophers, and spiritual seekers throughout history have been known for their fierce protection of alone time. They're not avoiding life, they're accessing aspects of life that only reveal themselves in solitude. They understand that some of their most valuable work happens in the invisible realm of inner exploration and integration. But here's the question that might fundamentally shift your entire relationship with solitude. What if the version of yourself that emerges only when you're completely alone, the thoughts you think when no one is listening, the interests you pursue when no one is judging, the way you naturally move through space when no audience is watching, what if that isn't the lesser version of you, but actually the most essential one? Think about this deeply for a moment. In your most private hours, when all social masks have been removed, who do you become? What captures your attention? What questions arise? What version of yourself feels most authentic when there's absolutely no one to impress or perform for? And here's the crucial follow-up. What would your life look like if you honored this authentic self as much as you honor the expectations of others? I want you to pause this video and really contemplate that question. Leave a comment below sharing what you've discovered about yourself in solitude. What aspects of your personality only emerge when you're alone? Your insights might help others recognize and honor their own authentic solitude experiences. Let's explore something that sounds almost mystical, but has profound psychological validity. The energetic dimension of unexpected visitors entering your space. You know that feeling when someone leaves your home and suddenly the air feels different. When you can sense the residual presence of their emotional state, their mental preoccupations, their psychological patterns lingering in your environment. This isn't imagination or oversensitivity. It's recognition of something Jung understood about human consciousness. We're far more energetically permeable than we typically acknowledge. Every person carries what we might call an emotional psychological field, a constellation of thoughts, feelings, unresolved conflicts, current preoccupations, and unconscious patterns that extends beyond their physical body. When someone enters your carefully calibrated personal space, they bring this entire psychological constellation with them. If they're anxious, that anxiety becomes part of your atmospheric experience. If they're carrying unresolved anger, your sensitive psyche may absorb some of that emotional charge. If they're in a state of mental agitation or neediness, your peaceful internal state begins adjusting to accommodate their psychological frequency. Highly sensitive individuals, which includes many people drawn to deep solitude, are particularly susceptible to these energetic influences. They're often natural empaths who unconsciously attune to others' emotional states, sometimes to the point of losing touch with their own authentic feelings and responses. For these individuals, unexpected visitors don't just interrupt their evening, they potentially disrupt their entire internal ecosystem. This energetic sensitivity isn't a flaw or weakness. It's often correlated with creativity, emotional intelligence, spiritual awareness, and the capacity for profound empathy. But like any heightened sensitivity, it requires conscious management and protective strategies. Just as someone with sensitive eyes needs sunglasses in bright light, energetically sensitive individuals need psychological boundaries in overwhelming social situations. Your home represents more than personal space. It's your energetic sanctuary, carefully attuned to your natural psychological frequency. You've unconsciously arranged the lighting, chosen colors, selected objects, and created atmospheres that support your optimal mental and emotional states. This isn't mere decoration, it's environmental psychology in action. When unexpected visitors arrive, they don't just occupy physical space, they alter the energetic composition of your sanctuary. Their presence requires your psyche to adjust its frequency to accommodate their psychological patterns while simultaneously maintaining social appropriateness and hospitable behavior. This dual demand, internal frequency adjustment plus external performance management, creates the exhaustion many people experience after unwanted social interactions. Some visitors carry particularly challenging energetic signatures. The perpetually anxious person, who fills your peaceful space with worry. The drama-prone individual, who seems to generate crisis wherever they go. The emotionally needy person, who unconsciously seeks to fill their internal emptiness by drawing on others' energy reserves. The perpetually negative individual, who can drain optimism from the most positive environment. None of these patterns make someone a bad person, but they do create energetic challenges for sensitive hosts. Learning to recognize these patterns and developing strategies for protecting your psychological boundaries while still treating others with kindness becomes a crucial life skill for anyone who values their solitude and mental clarity. This is why many wise individuals develop intuitive screening processes for their social interactions. They learn to distinguish between visitors who enhance their energy and those who deplete it. They recognize the difference between chosen engagement that feels nourishing and obligatory social performance that feels draining. They develop the capacity to say yes to connections that support their authentic development and no to demands that compromise their psychological well-being. In the traditional tarot deck, the Hermit card depicts a solitary figure holding a lantern, standing alone in darkness, but radiating inner light. This powerful archetype captures something essential about the spiritual dimension of solitude that transcends personality types or social preferences. The Hermit doesn't retreat from life. He withdraws to illuminate life more clearly. Your resistance to unexpected visitors might be this Hermit consciousness calling you toward deeper self-knowledge. Its recognition that some of your most important work, psychological, creative, spiritual, happens in protected solitude, away from the constant input of others' opinions, expectations, and energetic demands. Consider the great spiritual traditions throughout human history. Christianity speaks of the desert fathers and mothers who withdrew from society to encounter divine reality in solitude. Buddhism emphasizes meditation retreats and periods of silent contemplation. Indigenous cultures recognize vision quests and solo wilderness experiences as essential for spiritual maturation. Hinduism acknowledges the hermit stage as a natural and necessary phase of human development. These traditions understand something modern culture has largely forgotten. Certain insights can only arise in protected quiet. The deeper currents of consciousness, the subtle whispers of intuition, the profound recognitions that transform how we understand ourselves and reality. These experiences require space cleared of external distraction and social performance. In solitude, you learn to distinguish between the chatter of social conditioning and the quieter voice of authentic knowing. You discover which desires truly belong to you and which you've absorbed from others' expectations. You find courage to pursue paths that might not make sense to anyone else, but feel profoundly right to your deeper self. This isn't about rejecting community or human connection. It's about approaching both from a place of inner fullness rather than inner emptiness. When you know yourself deeply, when you've cultivated inner resources, when you've learned to enjoy your own company, you can give and receive love more freely because you're not desperately grasping for validation or unconsciously trying to escape the discomfort of your own presence. The exhaustion many people feel after social interactions often comes from performing versions of themselves they don't fully recognize or resonate with. In solitude, you can drop these performances and remember who you actually are beneath layers of social conditioning, family expectations, and cultural programming. Some souls are naturally oriented toward this inner work more than others. This isn't spiritual superiority. It's simply a different path to wholeness and authentic self-expression. Just as some plants thrive in full sunlight, while others flourish in partial shade, some people regenerate through constant social connection, while others require regular periods of blessed solitude to maintain their psychological and spiritual health. Your need for protected alone time might be your soul's way of ensuring you stay connected to your authentic path, rather than getting swept along by others' agendas. It might be your psyche's sophisticated protection against losing yourself in the constant demands of social performance and external validation seeking. The Hermit's lantern represents inner wisdom, a light that doesn't depend on external sources, but burns steadily from within. When unexpected visitors interrupt this inner illumination, you temporarily lose access to this deeper guidance. The conversation might be pleasant enough, but afterward you often feel depleted rather than enriched, scattered rather than centered, further from yourself rather than more deeply connected to your authentic essence. This is why protecting your solitude isn't selfish, it's strategic. It ensures you're engaging with the world from your center rather than your periphery, from strength rather than depletion, from conscious choice rather than unconscious obligation or guilt-driven compliance. One of the most challenging aspects of honoring your need for solitude in a hyper-connected world is learning to establish and maintain healthy boundaries without drowning in guilt or self-doubt. In cultures that often equate social availability with kindness and constant accessibility with friendship, saying no to unexpected social demands can feel almost revolutionary. But Jung understood something crucial about psychological health. Boundaries aren't walls that separate us from others. They're permeable filters that allow in what serves our growth and authentic development, while filtering out what depletes, distracts, or demands energy we don't have to give. When you say no to unwanted social interactions, you're simultaneously saying yes to your psychological well-being and your capacity for authentic engagement. The guilt many people experience around wanting alone time often stems from fundamental misunderstandings about what solitude actually produces. Society tends to view alone time as non-productive, selfish, or antisocial, but Jung recognized solitude as essential for individuation, the lifelong process of becoming a fully realized individual rather than just a collection of social roles, family expectations, and cultural prescriptions. In protected solitude, you're not avoiding life, you're digesting it. You're not rejecting others, you're preparing to engage with them more authentically. You're not being antisocial, you're being selectively social, choosing depth over breadth, quality over quantity, meaning over mere activity in your human connections. Learning to communicate these needs clearly and without apology becomes a crucial life skill. Instead of making excuses or apologizing for your psychological orientation, you might learn to say things like, "I'm in a reflective space this evening and need some quiet time to process my thoughts and experiences." Or, "I deeply appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm not in a social headspace right now. Could we plan something intentional for later this week when I can be fully present?" Notice that these responses don't apologize for your needs or manufacture elaborate justifications. They simply state your current reality with kindness and respect while offering alternatives when appropriate. This level of honesty often leads to deeper respect from others, even if they don't initially understand your psychological orientation or needs. The people who genuinely care about your well-being will respect your boundaries and appreciate your authenticity. Those who pressure you to override your own needs for their convenience or who make you feel guilty for honoring your psychological requirements are revealing something important about their relationship to your autonomy and their respect for your individuality. Establishing these boundaries requires distinguishing between different types of social interactions and their impact on your energy and authenticity. Some social connections are genuinely nourishing. They leave you feeling more yourself rather than less, energized rather than depleted, inspired rather than drained. These interactions tend to involve people who appreciate your authentic self, engage in meaningful dialogue, respect your natural rhythms, and don't require constant performance or emotional labor. Other social interactions, while not necessarily negative, can be energetically costly. They require significant persona maintenance, emotional regulation, or the suppression of your natural responses and interests. Learning to recognize the difference between these types of interactions helps you make conscious choices about how to allocate your social energy. The most challenging social interactions are those that actively undermine your well-being. Interactions with people who are consistently negative, emotionally manipulative, overly demanding, or who seem to draw energy from others without reciprocating. Learning to limit these interactions, even with family members or long-time acquaintances, often becomes necessary for maintaining psychological health and authentic self-expression. In our hyper-connected, constantly stimulating modern world, the capacity for meaningful solitude has become more than a personal preference. It's evolved into a form of cultural medicine, a necessary antidote to the overwhelming pace and superficiality of contemporary life. Consider the unprecedented nature of our current social environment. Humans evolved in small tribal groups, where solitude was naturally available and social interactions were limited by geography and circumstance. Our psychological systems developed over thousands of years in contexts where quiet contemplation, connection with nature, and periods of minimal social stimulation were the norm rather than the exception. Today we live in environments of constant connectivity, perpetual availability, endless entertainment options, and social media platforms designed to capture and hold our attention. Our nervous systems, designed for much simpler social environments, often become overwhelmed by the sheer volume of input, choice, and stimulation available every moment of every day. In this context, individuals who strongly protect their solitude may be unconsciously serving not just their personal psychological health, but performing a crucial cultural function. They're maintaining connection to slower rhythms, deeper questions, and more substantial forms of meaning-making that risk being lost in the rush of contemporary life. The insights that arise in protected solitude, the creative breakthroughs that come in silence, the philosophical recognitions that emerge in contemplation, the spiritual experiences that unfold in quietude, these contributions often benefit not just the individual, but the broader human community. Many of history's most significant cultural contributions have emerged from individuals who fiercely protected their alone time and used it for deep creative and intellectual work. Think of the scientific discoveries that emerged from solitary contemplation, the artistic masterpieces created in private studios, the philosophical insights that arose during long walks in nature, the spiritual teachings that came through extended periods of meditation and retreat. These contributions to human knowledge and cultural development required individuals willing to step away from social demands and popular trends to pursue deeper investigations. Your need for solitude might be your contribution to this larger cultural project of maintaining depth, authenticity, and meaningful reflection in a world increasingly oriented towards speed, superficiality, and constant external stimulation. By honoring your need for protected quiet time, you're not just taking care of your own psychological needs, you're participating in the preservation of human capacities that risk being lost in our hyper-connected age. This perspective reframes solitude from a personal quirk or social limitation into a form of cultural service. The person who reads philosophy instead of watching television, who takes contemplative walks instead of scrolling social media, who engages in creative pursuits instead of consuming entertainment, these choices create ripple effects that extend far beyond individual benefit. Moreover, individuals who have done deep inner work, who know themselves authentically, who have developed inner resources and genuine self-knowledge, often become more capable of meaningful contribution to their communities. They can engage in social and political issues from places of genuine conviction rather than reactive emotion. They can offer friendship and love from fullness rather than neediness. They can pursue work that feels meaningful rather than merely profitable or socially approved. The Hermit archetype, rather than representing withdrawal from social responsibility, can represent preparation for more authentic and effective social engagement. By doing the inner work that solitude makes possible, individuals often become more capable of addressing outer challenges with wisdom, creativity, and sustainable energy. As we near the completion of our exploration, let's translate these psychological and spiritual insights into practical strategies for honoring your need for solitude while maintaining the relationships and responsibilities that matter to you. First, recognize that protecting your solitude requires the same intentionality and planning that you might apply to other important aspects of your life. Just as you schedule time for work, exercise, or social commitments, your alone time deserves conscious allocation and protection. This might mean blocking out specific periods in your calendar for solitude, communicating your needs to family members or roommates, or creating physical spaces in your home that are designated for quiet contemplation and reflection. Develop what we might call solitude rituals, specific practices that help you transition from social performance mode back to your authentic inner state. This might involve changing clothes when you arrive home, spending a few minutes in meditation or silence, engaging in a creative activity that centers you, or simply sitting quietly with a cup of tea while consciously releasing the energy and impressions you've absorbed from others throughout the day. Learn to distinguish between different types of social invitations and requests. Some social interactions genuinely align with your values, interests, and energy levels. These are opportunities for authentic connection that enhance rather than deplete your well-being. Other social demands might be obligations, traditions, or expectations that don't serve your growth or happiness. Developing the wisdom to recognize these differences and the courage to choose accordingly becomes essential for maintaining psychological health. Create what Jung might call transitional spaces between your public and private lives. This might involve taking time to walk in nature after work before returning home, spending a few minutes in your car, collecting yourself after social events, or developing evening routines that help you process the day's experiences before settling into solitude. When unexpected visitors do arrive, remember that you have options beyond immediate accommodation or rude rejection. You might honestly say something like, "I'm so glad you thought of me, but I'm in a quiet headspace right now. Could we plan a time later this week when I can give you my full attention?" Or, "I appreciate you stopping by, but this isn't a good time for me. Can we schedule something soon when I'm better prepared to visit?" These responses acknowledge the person's intentions while honoring your current needs and offering alternatives that work better for your psychological state. Most people, even if initially disappointed, will respect this level of honesty and appreciate knowing where they stand rather than receiving half-hearted or distracted attention. Consider developing relationships with others who understand and share your appreciation for solitude. These might be friends who enjoy parallel activities, reading in the same room without talking, taking walks together in comfortable silence, or engaging in creative pursuits side by side. They might be people who appreciate deep conversation over small talk, who respect natural rhythms and energy levels, and who don't take your need for alone time as personal rejection. Finally, practice communicating about your solitude needs with compassion for others while maintaining clear boundaries for yourself. Help friends and family understand that your need for alone time isn't about them. It's about maintaining your psychological health and authenticity. Share resources, articles, or insights that might help them understand introversion, sensitivity, or the value of contemplative practices. As we conclude this deep exploration into the psychology of solitude, I want you to consider a revolutionary possibility. What if your discomfort with unexpected visitors, your need for protected alone time, and your preference for depth over breadth in social connection aren't problems to solve but gifts to honor? What if in a world that profits from your constant availability, your distraction, and your disconnection from your authentic self, your insistence on regular solitude represents a form of quiet rebellion? What if your refusal to be perpetually accessible is actually a sophisticated act of self-preservation and cultural service? The doorbell will continue to ring. Unexpected visitors will arrive at inconvenient moments. Social demands will compete for your attention and energy. Text messages will expect immediate responses. Social events will promise connection, but deliver performance expectations. But now you have a framework for understanding what's truly at stake in these moments. You have permission, no, more than permission. You have psychological justification for honoring your need for protected space. You have the wisdom of Carl Jung, the archetype of the Hermit, and your own hard-won self-knowledge to guide your choices about when to engage and when to retreat, when to say yes and when to offer a gentle but firm no. Your solitude isn't selfish. It's sophisticated self-care that enables more authentic engagement with others. Your boundaries aren't cruel. They're necessary filters that allow you to give from abundance rather than depletion. Your need for quiet isn't antisocial. It's recognition that some of your most important work, your deepest healing, your most creative insights, and your most authentic development happen in protected silence. If these insights resonate with you, if you're someone ready to honor your psychological needs without apology, I'd love to hear about your own experiences with solitude in the comments below. Share a moment when alone time led to an important breakthrough, or tell us about a time you successfully protected your boundaries and how it felt. And if you found genuine value in this exploration, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. It helps me continue creating content for people who think deeply about human psychology, personal development, and the courage to live authentically in a world that often demands conformity. Remember, the quieter you become, the more you can hear yourself. And in a world increasingly full of noise, distraction, and superficial connection, that authentic inner voice, your truest voice, might be exactly what the world needs to hear. Your solitude is sacred. Your boundaries are necessary. Your quiet nature isn't a limitation. It's a profound gift that allows you to maintain connection to depths that others might never discover. Guard this gift carefully, honor it fully. Let it guide you toward a life of greater authenticity, deeper meaning, and more genuine connection with both yourself and others. The Hermit's lantern burns brightest in protected darkness. Your inner light, cultivated in solitude, strengthened in silence, refined in contemplation, is your contribution not just to your own becoming, but to the collective human project of remaining connected to what matters most in an age of endless distraction. Trust your need for quiet. Honor your resistance to unwanted interruption. Celebrate your capacity for depth in a world obsessed with surface. Your solitude isn't escape from life. It's preparation for living more authentically, loving more fully, and contributing more meaningfully to the world that needs your unique gifts.